Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're doing fine. I'm also okay. Today, I want to invite you into a discussion. Join me as we interrogate whether President William Ruto is hated for doing the wrong things or is misunderstood and actually being criticized while he's doing the right things. If that is something you are keen on, please stay tuned. And of course, if you're watching for the first time, just take a moment, subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss subsequent videos. Ladies and gentlemen, in communication, there's something we call narrative. I won't go into the dictionary definition of a narrative, but I will just tell you that the main aim of running a narrative is to make people view a certain issue in a particular manner or have a specific opinion about a particular person. So a narrative can be run on issues or it can be run about a person. Two, a narrative can be negative or positive. You can be running a narrative to demean someone, to make people not like that particular person, or to make people hate a certain idea. You can also be running a narrative to make people like an individual and to make people also like a particular subject. And so, since 2013, the politics of Kenya has been majorly about running narratives. Example comes to mind. Before 2013, Uhuru Kenyatta was not the darling of the Mount Kenya people. Remember when Uhuru Kenyatta vied for presidency in 2002, he failed miserably. Why did the Kikuyus pick Kibaki over Uhuru Kenyatta? It was because there was that resentment of the Kenyatta family. People didn't like them, especially the Kikuyus. They were feeling that one way or the other, the Kenyattas were responsible for the myriad of challenges they were facing. And given a choice between Kibaki and Uhuru, they simply went for Kibaki. But then Uhuru sat down and I think did some introspection. And in 2007, being the opposition leader expected to vie, he did not vie. He first of all supported Kibaki, being the first in the history of the country, being the first opposition leader to actually endorse the incumbent. So he endorsed the incumbent. Was he bringing with him a particular voting bloc? No. Instead, he leaned on the voting bloc that Kibaki already had to look for their love. And this paid off because Kikuyus started to see him differently. They started to look past the father, the Kenyatta, and started looking at Uhuru, the person. So he was like a very humble person who is fighting for the rights of the Kikuyus, who was willing to sacrifice his candidature just to stand with one of their own. That, ladies and gentlemen, was a narrative. And by 2013, Uhuru Kenyatta had already hired firms that made it very easy for people to see who he was. The PR firms, that is, that ran narratives to make people start looking past the Kenyatta tag and look at Uhuru the person, make him relatable. And it was so relatable that Mount Kenya as a whole voted for Uhuru Kenyatta. Somebody they had rejected in 2002 because of his lineage, they were now embracing him without even considering the lineage. That is the power of narratives. It was a narrative about making Uhuru Kenyatta relatable, and it worked. In 2017, Uhuru Kenyatta, when he wanted to win the election, re-election, he ran narratives. The narrative that they dwelt on was based on the things they had achieved by 2016. So they were telling people that, you see, you gave us a chance and we did 1, 2, 3. So, ladies and gentlemen, in 2017, Uhuru Kenyatta, to get re-elected, also had to run narratives. And at that particular time, he had overcome the Kenyatta tag. People were looking at him for who he was. Nobody was concerned about him being the son of Kenyatta or him being a Kikuyu. People were looking at him as an individual, the incumbent president. And so they ran a narrative of what they had achieved for the people within the first term. And it was well done. They would mention the things they had done, and also they told people what the alternative was, and that narrative worked. Then Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga had a handshake. And this story I'm giving about narrative, ladies and gentlemen, is very important. It is going to help us understand how Ruto found himself where he is, okay, and what it means moving forward. So in 2018, Uhuru Kenyatta forms an handshake with Raila Odinga. It's kind of an agreement that is going to support Raila Odinga for 2022 election against his earlier promise of Yangu Kumi, ya Ruto Kumi. So the Mount Kenya people and the Kalenjin, who had overwhelmingly voted and supported the Uhuru Ruto ticket, and also had bought the narrative of the things they had achieved, were now being told something else. Because Uhuru knew that there was no way he was going to cover his change of heart without running a narrative. And I am not creating this, ladies and gentlemen, through the confessions of one Mutai Ngunyi. I think you can look for that video. Mutai Ngunyi confessed that for us to actually belittle the betrayal, we decided to focus on making Ruto look extremely bad. And so when they tried, I'm still quoting Mutai, you can find the entire video in the Fifth Estate YouTube. And so they tried to paint him as a thief. And that did not stick for long because the audience they were targeting were the Kikuyus. And Kikuyus for a while, for long, have been called thieves. And so when you painted Ruto as a thief, it was ridiculously looking like you were talking about one of their own. I'm still quoting Mutai. Then they sat down and looked at what narrative can stick. Because this narrative of him being a thief and a murderer is not sticking. Remember, we are also stealing. Okay? We also have cases. Uhuru was at ICC because of issues of murder. At that particular time in 2018, Uhuru was already being accused of misappropriating the money because people were asking, where have you taken the loans that you picked? Can we see the deals of SGR and other things? So the thief thing was not picking. That narrative was falling flat. So according to Mutai, what they did, they invented a new narrative to paint Ruto as a liar. And to paint Ruto as a liar, remember Ruto was not the president. So what they did, they said that the promises that he made, Ruto would go to places sent by Uhuru Kenyatta. He would tell them, we will do this. Uhuru Kenyatta would send him to go and launch a particular project. And then that project is cash starved, is starved of cash, so that he doesn't pick. And to run the narrative that Ruto is a liar, they relied on this. They would point people to projects that Ruto said he will do. Notably was the Stadia. Ruto had said, we will do this Stadia, we will do this Stadia. It was in the manifesto of Jubilee, by the way. And so Ruto was just saying what was in the manifesto of Jubilee. But it was picked as fake promises, not from the government, not from Jubilee government, but individually from Ruto. Uhuru Kenyatta was absolved. So anything that went wrong in the first term of Uhuru Kenyatta was assigned to Ruto. Anything that excelled and did well in the first term of Uhuru Kenyatta was assigned to Uhuru Kenyatta. And so that way, they managed to paint Ruto as a liar. Are you getting the narrative? And so the narrative of Ruto being a liar stuck. Even today, you hear people calling him Mtukufu lies. People are like, Ruto lies, and every time, Ruto lies. All the time, Ruto lies. You see, it was a narrative that was run between 2018 and 2022. Even though it didn't affect how people voted, because I told you that the voting is about which community come together with what other community to get you elected. And the Kikuyus were still sticking with the Kalenjin, and so it was easier for Ruto to be elected. But the narrative of being a liar stuck. You see? So that people now started looking for areas where Ruto might have made a promise that he never fulfilled, and to justify that actually he was a liar. So the narrative of being a liar stuck. But is it true that William Ruto makes false promises? Let us just take random promises that he made during campaign. President William Ruto, during his campaign, said that once I'm elected, I am going to have something called Hustler Fund that is going to cushion the Kenyans of low income from predatory mobile money lenders. When Ruto got into power, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing he did was to launch Hustler Fund. He made that promise and he kept it. I'm taking just random examples of things he said in campaign. He said he gets in, if he's elected, he will swear in the judges that Uhuru did. He swore them the following day after inauguration. You see? Narratives. Ruto is a liar. He makes fake promises. There is nothing that Ruto can promise that he will ever do. But here I am giving you examples of things that Ruto promised. Just random. Things that Ruto promised and has already, as of now, fulfilled. Even though he's just been in office for 2 years, which is half, less than half of his term. Guess what? President Ruto promised to hire teachers. As we speak today, Ruto has hired 55,000 teachers. Not guesswork, not some imaginary thing. He has hired 55,000 teachers, which, ladies and gentlemen, is the highest in the history of this country. He promised he would hire teachers, and he has hired teachers. But you know what you are told? Ruto makes promises that he never keeps. And everything that Ruto promises you, just know he will not deliver. He promises Hustler Fund, delivered. He promises that he will swear in the judges, he did that the following day. He promised that he will hire teachers, he has already hired teachers. Ruto promised that he would go on with affordable housing program with the aim of eradicating slums. Even though that thing has been opposed in ways that you've never seen, it is up and running. It has been opposed in ways that you've never seen. It's been litigated in ways that I've never seen any policy of government being litigated like that. Initially, it was Kotu that had refused this particular program. But even after Kotu withdrew all the cases and actually said it's okay, this is a good thing, people volunteered, ladies and gentlemen. People volunteered to go to court and challenge this. And this was challenged in ways you've never seen. At times, it was even declared unconstitutional, and Ruto had to redo the law to the point that recently the court ruled that housing program meets the constitutional requirement and is okay. But after a struggle of almost 2 years, the program, ladies and gentlemen, is a promise Ruto made and is an program that is currently running, and it has employed thousands of Kenyans. Remember, it is being run in almost every county. Just take time. Don't even take my word for it. Just go to Bomayangu and see all the counties that are doing this particular project. People who otherwise would not have jobs. And it is not just kazi ya mjengo, as other people put it. Because you remember, we have quantity surveyors, we have building, coming up with a building is not just about those who wanakoroga. No, it's about people who are going to, the welders, those who are going to do plumbing, those who are going to do fitting. It's a lot of jobs. And people are working, ladies and gentlemen. It's a promise he made, and it's a promise he has kept. I would have counted several things that President promised and he has delivered, but that is not going to do justice to what I want us to answer here. Because you see, the perception of some members of the public is that this guy is a liar, and if he's not, he has policies that are anti-Kenya. That is what I meet somebody and they tell you, you know, the problem with Ruto is that he is forcing us with very useless policies and making life extremely difficult for us. That is something that perhaps if you are somebody who is opposing William Ruto currently, that perhaps is a statement you've heard 1,000 times, or you've also said it somewhere. But let us take at least 3 policies and look at them, the most criticized policies of William Ruto, and look at them and see whether these policies, are they injurious to the nation? Are they as bad as it is being claimed? Or this is part of the narrative that is being run? Because I told you, elections in this country have been run through narratives. And the narrative that is being peddled out there and being pushed hard is that Ruto is a liar, and number 2, that Ruto has delivered nothing. I have just told you that Ruto has hired teachers, 55,000, that nobody has ever done that before. I have told you that Ruto has cushioned millions of Kenyans. Actually, 18 million and above are taking some small cash from Asla Fund to do whatever it is that they want to do with it, whether it is just to buy food, etc. It's just about cushioning the common man at the bottom of the pyramid. They are cushioned. It forced even the likes of Fuliza, the likes of Mshwari, KCB, M-Pesa to lower their interest rate. This is something Ruto promised to do, and he did. But you're being told he did nothing. He has done nothing. So I'm not going to concentrate on whether on the narrative of Ruto has done nothing, because I could count up to 13 things offered that President Ruto has achieved, which are bringing meaningful changes to the lives of Kenyans. But let us look at the policies, because the main complaint here is that President Ruto is coming up with very bad policies. And some people even argue that why can't he leave what we currently have instead of introducing something? Why can't he improve? That is, why can't he improve what we have instead of introducing a completely new thing? An example would be NHIF. President Ruto studied how NHIF operates. NHIF, ladies and gentlemen, in full is National Hospital Insurance Fund. I want you to note the word hospital. This particular insurance cover only gets into effect if you are hospitalized. That is why it is called National Hospital Insurance Fund. Secondly, it was actually meant for the civil servants. The introduction of self-sponsored was an afterthought that came during Uhuru's time. Before that, the self-sponsored and this outpatient care were not there. Now you could pay some 500 shillings and get some form of care. In my opinion, very mediocre outpatient care. The only people who were enjoying NHIF were civil servants who had comprehensive cover. And you can't blame them. NHIF, in its original form, was by civil servants for civil servants. But go back to the word hospital. It only covers you if you are sick. It didn't have preventive. It didn't have serious care for emergency. And by the way, if you had chronic disease like cancer, Kenyans know that if your family member was today diagnosed of cancer, all of you are on a route to poverty because you will end up selling things and etc. So Ruto sits down and say, this is what we have. How do we improve this? Remember, this one is only covering you if you are in hospital. Why can't we come up with something better? And what does he do? He comes up with SHA. Now, SHA is Social Health Authority. The word social here, ladies and gentlemen, denotes that those who at least are blessed are being requested to contribute a little more to help those who are at the bottom of the pyramid. And why does this make sense? Before you say we are not a communist and we are not going to do this, remember our kind of capitalistic arrangement now is that the poor, very poor people, contribute tax to afford the elite good care. An example, who pays the civil servants? It is these poor people. And who enjoys comprehensive cover from NHIF? It is the civil servant. The poor people who are paying 500 and would go to an hospital and be given Panadol, being told that this is not covered, this is not covered, this is not covered, are the ones who have to tighten their belts and contribute so that an MP can get a cover of 10 million. Did you know that an MP and PSS and directors, these are people who enjoy covers of millions and above? And civil servants have serious comprehensive cover that it's not very uncommon to find that a civil servant is giving birth at Mpisha or Nairobi Hospital or let's say Aga Khan. Something that the common man who is actually paying for all this can never even dream of. So Ruto says, the system we have, not that it's just bad, no. It has disenfranchised the majority. How many civil servants do we have, ladies and gentlemen, in Kenya? About 1 million people. And so, in a country of 50-something million, if only 1 million people are taken care of, okay, then it leaves out a majority to suffer. So what does Ruto do? Ruto says, let us have something that is better, that is going to cover everyone, and hence Social Health Authority. Social, I have just explained. Those who have contribute a little more so that it can be added, pulled together with those who don't have, so that everybody at the end of the day is assured of quality health. Up to there, ladies and gentlemen, how bad is that policy? Let us just be honest. How bad is that particular move? How is it punishing Kenyans? I need to understand. How does saying that let's bring on board majority of Kenyans to good health cover a bad thing? It's only a bad thing when a narrative is pushed. How do they push the narrative? You are told that this particular health cover is supported or is a way of siphoning money using groups like the Adani Group. So you are not told to examine that this particular health cover is for all Kenyans, that it is going to bring some sense of equity in terms of medical cover in the country. No. You are being distracted that it is one of Ruto's lies. Number two, it is one of Ruto's ways to steal from Kenyans. Even after President Ruto asked you a simple question, As the President of the Republic of Kenya, according to the rules of NHIF, he pays 1,700. And he earns 1.2 million Kenya shillings. But he pays 1,700. Yet, taxpayers give President Ruto a cover of 10 million, which can even go up to 40 million. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, you've seen members of parliament, all these leaders, even if they have some scratch on the finger, you will see them at Nairobi Hospital with bandage and being visited and getting flowers. And nothing bad with that. Their cover can afford that. But what about you? So Ruto is saying that you also, not that you are going to go to Nairobi Hospital to dress your finger. No, but at least you should have a meaningful health care. How can that be something bad? How can that be a policy that you are out to fight? How? Unless you've been misled to believe that it is bad for you. I remember, ladies and gentlemen, just allow me to talk. I remember that when President Ruto introduced affordable fertilizer, as he promised. Remember, Ruto is a liar. He promises things he never do. He promised he will subsidize fertilizer, and he did subsidize fertilizer, actually almost immediately. But when this fertilizer was introduced, the propaganda that went into fighting this particular program, especially from people who could afford fertilizer, it was horrifying. It was serious. But then the farmers who took advantage of this, me being one of them, for the first time I became a farmer, by the way. Initially, I was not a farmer. I can't lie that I've been farming. I took advantage of this, registered my farm in Homa Bay, and did give it a try. I still have maize. Okay? The prices are too low, so I can't sell. That is the problem we find ourselves in. You want the prices of unga to be low, but we also have maize you want to sell at a higher price. So farmers, you know the feeling if you're a farmer. Now, during that time, the propaganda against the affordable fertilizer was out of this world. But those Ruto pushed with it. It was very unpopular, but he pushed with it. And today, ladies and gentlemen, the production improved. And that is why, even though people were saying, oh, it was just last year, November, because of heavy harvest, very soon unga will be 200. It is not going to 200. As long as production is high, with fertilizer you can get more. People like, in my area, people used to get 2 bags, 3 bags. In good cases, in a good scenario, they may end up with with even 4 bags. But I easily got 15 bags, easily. First attempt. It means that most of these agendas of the president, most of the agenda of the president are very well thought, but being fought by a clique of people who are not happy that the status quo is being touched. And let me give you an example. You had a clinic that was on top of a pub. Some clinic, not even a level 2 thing, but you have it there. And then at the end of it all, you are claiming that you've done more surgery than Kenyatta. And NHIF was paying you. If you hear that somebody is going to replace that NHIF, wouldn't you fight? Because you are making millions out of Kenyan's taxpayers through fraud. If, let's say, you are a supplier of fertilizer, you import fertilizer, you sell your fertilizer to farmers at 7,500, and then Ruto comes with affordable fertilizer at 2,500, wouldn't you fight that? Because it is destroying your market. When Hustler Fund was introduced, the people who were giving loans were never happy because they used to give loans that had crazy interest rates. And now Hustler Fund was coming to levelize the playing field. And so they opposed it. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, most of the criticism don't begin with the poor person. It is intended to incite the poor person, but it doesn't begin with the poor person. For instance, I can tell you that the person that is telling you that SHA is bad, that you should not register, calling it even shishas, I don't know what, that particular person already has a private healthcare. Yes, perhaps they have AR, they have Jubilee, they are taken care of. They have the money to afford private healthcare. Or they are government officials who are already enjoying private healthcare. Because you should know this, there are government officials also who are also procured private healthcare. Apart from the NHIF, they also have additional procured private healthcare. And this is the person who will go somewhere and will tell you how SHA is bad, how SHIF is out of this world, how NHIF should have just been left there. Ruto is not thinking, Ruto does not listen, etc. So that you as a poor person who does not even have a cover can buy into their rhetoric and help them oppose this for just purposes of ensuring that they keep their unga. Somebody who was selling fertilizer at 7,000 would come and incite very poor farmers that this fertilizer is what? Nini. And the poor farmer will reject the fertilizer, thinking that they are actually doing something good. They are only helping the other guy to sell his fertilizer. Take housing, for instance, ladies and gentlemen. Take housing, for instance. People who are telling you how bad the affordable housing program is are living in gated communities. You are in a slum, somewhere where decency is a luxury. Decency is a luxury. You can't even get clean water. I have lived in such pathetic situations. I know what people go through there. If you have not, perhaps you have a relative who is living in those deplorable conditions. Then someone who is in a leafy suburb goes to the media with some of the most far-fetched theories to convince the poor person to reject a social house. Can you imagine that? Only because President Ruto has said that this particular person should contribute 1.5% of the salary that Kenyans pay them. So because you are asked, can you please, now that you are already in a position of earning, can you just give at least 1.5% of your salary so that we help your relative who is in the slum to also have a decent house? And you in the slum, you pick that and you're like, this affordable housing program is one of Ruto's lies, is one of ways Ruto is stealing from Kenyans. And you believe it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I can talk until tomorrow because this is a subject I'm always passionate about. I am one person who is persuaded that unless we change certain things in Kenya, the status quo only favors a very few clique. Let me give you an example. A middle-class parent takes their kid to a private academy where perhaps they pay 300,000 per year. In this private academy, this kid is guaranteed of going to a national school where they may pay 100,000 a year or more. At national school, this kid is guaranteed of a space at the university. And when they reach the university, because they are the kids who performed very well, the government is supposed to pay for them now. All of a sudden, they are poor. They started rigging from bottom up. They started with ensuring that their kids went to exclusive schools with guarantee that they are going to perform well. You and I, our kids will go to some public school where teachers also decide not to attend classes, a school where they celebrate when 4 people get pass mark to go to secondary school. And then the rest find themselves in very funny secondary schools. Secondary schools that exist today, and after 4 years you go there, it doesn't exist. They're on a closed state. You are already doomed. It is rigged against you. The fact that you went to a particular school in Kenya can define whether you go to university or not. And Ruto is saying, this is what we have. It is rigged against the poor. And how does he justify this? Where is the evidence? How does he justify this? What is the evidence? When President Ruto brought the university funding model, another highly criticized program, okay? Another highly criticized program, something that people were even planning to go to the street. He brought something called bands, meaning if you are in the university, you will be supported by government based on the income of your parents. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know the saddest part of this? Is that only 10% of all the students in the university qualified to be in band 1. People whose parents earn 5,000 and below. Only 10% of them are in these universities. Meaning the children of the poor are already locked out of university education. Some of you are there without a university degree, not because you are stupid. No. It was already rigged against you. And Ruto is saying, if we continue like that, then we are going to continuously lock a certain section of the population, and actually the majority of the population, from higher education. Education is supposed to be the equalizer. But in this case, you have to rig your way from the bottom. You have to pick the best academy, which will take you to a national school, which will then take you to university. The rest, who find themselves in very funny, dingy city council schools, you don't even have dreams of going to the university. And actually, you won't go. It is rigged against you. Ruto went and found that only 10% of the children of the poor, ladies and gentlemen, are in the university. And so when he comes up with a plan, he says, I will build 5,000 classrooms in Nairobi. I will build 3,500 classrooms across the country in those marginalized areas, so that we have what we call irreducible minimum. Irreducible minimum in a school. Not that some schools have 7 laboratories and some don't even have a classroom. He say that, let's say, what is the irreducible minimum? Irreducible minimum for a school. Let's say they have enough classes, they have a library, they have a laboratory, something like that. They have water, they have electricity. So that while schools are not going to be equal, the other schools with 7 laboratories, they have been there forever. Other schools also will have at least some of these amenities. And then you get up and you say that is the worst policy you've ever had. Because somebody who is already rigging the system has influenced you on social media. You are the kid of a poor person. Somebody is telling you that what Ruto is planning to make education an equalizer for real is a very bad thing that you should reject. Ladies and gentlemen, I could go on and on. But from the look of things, I've just looked at a few policies that Ruto has come up with. Affordable housing, for instance, ladies and gentlemen, is something that the president is saying majority of Kenyans in the urban settlements are in informal settlement. Just do your own research. You will find that 75% of people in Nairobi live in ghettos and slums. Do you know how many people are in Nairobi? Nairobi is boasting of 5 million people. And 75% of those, ladies and gentlemen, are in ghetto and slums. Only a few people are in good estates. And Ruto is saying, we can't have that type of a country where in each and every urban area you have slums. Let us have a program where we will build houses, remove these people from slums, eradicate slums, not improve slums, no slum improvement, just eradicate slums. So that at least, while these people are not going to have bungalows with 17 bedrooms, no, but they will have some decent house where every Kenyan is going to live with dignity. It is demanded in the Constitution. Every Kenyan is entitled to a good house. But what happens, ladies and gentlemen? Somebody in a leafy suburb tells you that is the worst idea. Why? Because, like I said, Ruto said, let us take 1.5% of what you're getting. Yet they are in that leafy suburb because of the poor people. 75% of these poor people in Nairobi are supporting how the rich live there. And when they are asked, just a small way of saying thank you so that we can get your relative out of slum, they come with theories from heaven, theories from hell, to explain how this is the worst idea. So they want the status quo. They want Kenya to remain the way it is, with everybody, almost everybody poor, and a select crop of people enjoying life. And when the president comes out and saying that I will bite the bullet, I will make this hard decision. I don't care whether you re-elect me or not, but I will make sure that Kenya makes progress in terms of health, in terms of how people live, and in terms of education, and in terms of you having food. And then you are there, you are like, we will make you a one-time person, you are very hated, you are what. Are you opposing Ruto because he's doing good? Or are you criticizing him because he has messed? If he has messed, where has he messed? Let us not go with propaganda. Where has the president messed? Just say, Ruto, this particular thing is bad. You could have done this. No, you don't even have alternatives. All you hear is, it is bad. And those who say that, why are you launching all these changes drastically at once? I attended some medical classes. So let me paint a picture for you. A patient has been brought to you who has some deep cuts, so the person is bleeding. But this particular person also has serious chest complications. They are struggling to breathe. On the other hand, the person has a lot of fever. So somebody is saying, ignore the fever and the chest complication and focus on the cut first. Ruto is saying, if you ignore the fever, by the time you are done with the cut, it will be too high, this person might die. Or the chest complication would have gone from that particular stage to worse stage that the person will suffocate and die. What do? You approach all of them. You handle all of them at once. You are handling the fever. You give the drug for fever. You nebulize, if that is the key thing that you can do. You do nebulization so that this person can at least breathe, and you seal the wound. You can do all that at the same time. Because Kenya is in that particular situation. Kenya has pathetic education system. Kenya has a failed health system that only covers a few. And Kenya has one of the worst slums around. People are living below human dignity. And so you can't say, let me just focus on education first. No, you focus on all of them because they are all important. And that is what Ruto is doing. There are those who are also saying that President Ruto should just improve what we have as opposed to introducing something new. I want to give you an example. You have a business. This particular business is eating money from you. It has refused to break even. Okay? All your attempts to relocate or to buy different stock or to lower prices or to do advertisement is not working. You've done so many things, the so-called improvements. It's not working. Somebody tells you, just continue pumping money, don't give up. You've pumped more money than you even used to start the business. The business is running you into debts. Another one tells you, but you can do another business. This is not working for you. This is not working in this area. Why can't you do another business? So what do? You say, let me continue improving this as it drains you and renders you poor? Or do you consider this new business altogether and give it a try? 2, can you improve chapati into pizza? Is that possible? Is that even possible? You have a chapati. Somebody is telling you, you can just improve it into pizza. No, if you want to do pizza, you will need different ingredients, ladies and gentlemen. You will need something totally new. Even the equipment that you will need to create, to make pizza are different from what you will need to make chapati. So let us not hide behind all this to cover for the fact that we bought into wrong narrative, that Ruto is a liar. The person who coined this narrative is already confessing that we ran this narrative so that something could stick on this guy to bring him down. Ruto, we can count as many things that he promised that he has delivered. He has not delivered everything. He is just in power for 2 years. That is not even a half of his term. And he is concerned. He is focused on delivering these things. So you can't sit somewhere and just say, because I bought into this narrative and there is no way I'm going to change my mind. Apart from the people who are opposing Ruto because of politics, those ones I understand. There are people who are opposed to Ruto because of politics. Maybe they feel Ruto has done something politically that they don't agree with. Maybe Ruto working with ODM perhaps is something they don't agree with. So those ones I understand. And those ones should be dealt with politically. But you can't hide those political moves, those political hatred, and now turn them into serious issues that you can come and now oppose a policy like healthcare or something like education. You can't. And I want an honest answer from you on this. Based on what I have shared, are you sure that the policies that the president has come up with are policies that are hurting this country? Or is it that the people who are not comfortable with the status quo being changed are the ones that have managed to incite you against policies that otherwise are meant to benefit you? Be honest. Let me know what you think. I know this was a long video, but like I said, I wanted us to look at this man Ruto. Is he hated because he's doing good? Or is he hated because he's doing something actually bad? And I've told you in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, and I've given you examples, that in my opinion, President Ruto is making the unpopular decisions. If he were other presidents, he would have done what Kenyans want. I have learned something with majority of Kenyans. They don't like change. They only enjoy it later. When Kibaki was coming up with the idea to improve Thika Road, it was vehemently opposed. You can go to the archives and you will find headlines that are not very pleasant. It was vehemently opposed. In fact, they said this was a way of Kibaki looting and etc. Today, they praise Kibaki for bringing Thika Road. Hear that? When President Uhuru took over and he decided we are going to have a digital migration, it was so opposed that the media houses like Citizen, Standard, and Nation went on strike. They didn't want that. Today, if you are told to go back to analog audio, they praise those ideas. So, Kenyans will praise you once you are gone. And this is, I think, what President Ruto has understood, that Kenyans will praise you once you are gone. So make sure you do something, even though they are resisting. Because if Kibaki said, okay, you are making noise, let me let Thika Road be what it was, you would still stay on those roads, on that particular road for 2 hours to go to town. And if Uhuru said, oh, they are making noise about the analog, let us just let the Kenya would still be using outdated technology. And so decisions have to be made, ladies and gentlemen. And they are hard decisions. Change is not comfortable because, like I said, there are people who are enjoying from the status quo, and so they will fight. They will really fight. At the airport, that airport is leaking. Kenyans complain. A private investor says, I will use my own money to make a better airport. Even before we go to the public participation, even before, somebody has already incited, someone who is gaining from the current state of the airport, has incited the poor masses that Ruto is selling the airport. And they are all over. Ruto is selling the airport. So people who are enjoying from the status quo expect them to oppose this. When they were introducing the railway SGR, the people in the bus sector were like, this was going to kill their job. This was going to destroy their work. The business was not going to be there because SGR, currently they are still there are still buses going to Mombasa, and SGR is mostly fully booked. The same SGR that was opposed. So ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I can talk.